The objective of this lesson is to solve a linear equation in one variable. And what does a linear equation in one variable look like? Well, the general form looks something like this: ax plus b equals c, and where a is not equal to 0. And so x is the variable, and let's give some examples. Here we have 2x, so a is 2 and x is our variable, plus 3 is b, and 4 is c. And so this meets the criteria for being a linear equation. How about if we have z? Well, there's our single variable, and 1 is its coefficient, so a is 1, and b is negative 1/2, and then c in this case is 3. So here's another example of a linear equation in one variable. Let's do a third. How about just y equals 5? Well, in this case, a is 1, the variable is y, b is 0, and c is 5. So even this very simple equation is an example of a linear equation in one variable. Now, what does it mean to solve? To solve a linear equation in one variable, we want to find find numbers. In general, when you're solving an equation, you want to find numbers. Actually, for a linear equation, we'll just find a single number which makes a true statement. In other words, a number or numbers which will make our equation true. And the method that we'll be using to do this is, in this lesson, is we will be using something called the addition property of equality. We will be adding the same number to both sides of the equality, on both sides of the equal sign. And the reason why we'll be doing this is we'll be trying to make a simpler equation that is equivalent. And an equivalent equation has the same solution. Equivalent equations have the same solution. So we're attempting to find an equivalent equation that's simpler. And as a matter of fact, we want it so simple that we just isolate for a variable. We just want the variable to appear all by itself on one side of the equal sign. So you'll hear isolate for the variable. And these are the words that we use when we work on solving equations. Okay, so we have an equation here, and that we're to solve. We're to solve x subtract 4 equals 7, and you can probably just look at this and guess what would give us a solution, but we want to use the addition property of equality. So we write x minus 4, and we want to isolate for the variable, and so what we're going to do is add 4 to both sides, and by using the addition property of equality we'll get an equivalent equation. And here is our equivalent equation. We get x plus 0 equals, and 7 plus 4 is 11, and x plus 0 is equal to 11. And this is a much simpler equation, and we can see that the solution to this equation is 11. And now we need to just verify that we haven't made any mistakes, and so we want to check and see if indeed 11 is a solution of our original equation. So we rewrite our original equation, but we put 11 in place of x, subtract 4 equals 7, and we put a question mark here, and we see yes, 11 minus 4 is 7, and 7 equals 7, and yes, we've made a true statement, and therefore we verified that 11 is a solution to the equation. And there's two ways that you could write this. You could just write 11 is the solution in this case. 11 is, or just 11 is solution. And another way to write it is to write it in set notation with two braces and just put the solution that we found, 11, inside of the braces. Here's a second problem, and once again we'd want to isolate for the variable and use the addition property of equality. And notice that if we add a negative 3.5 or a negative 3 5/10 to both sides of this equation, that on the left side we will isolate for the variable. We'll just have a y left. And another way to write y plus a negative 3.5 is we can just subtract 3.5. And so we're really still using the addition property of equality, even though we're writing a subtraction. There isn't such a thing as a subtraction property of equality. Well, maybe there is. But we're saying that we're using the addition property of equality, and we get y plus 0. And then over here, let's actually figure out what is 7, subtract 3.5, and we'll need to borrow over here, make this a 6, bring over a 10, and we get 3.5. And so on the right side of the equation, we get 3.5, and y plus 0 is just y, and y equals 3.5, and we see the solution to the simple equation is 3.5, and let's check to see if that is truly a solution of our original equation. So we write, instead of y, we write 3.5, and then it says plus 3.5, and is this equal to 7? And sure enough, 3.5 plus 3.5 is 7, and 7 equals 7, and therefore we have a true statement, and therefore 3.5 is a solution. So the solution is 3.5, and as we said, another way to write this is to write it in set notation. So we put a brace in there and put 3.5 and put the other brace in there, and that's another way to show that it's a solution. Well, that's all we have time for this time. See ya.